What is up? Welcome to a very special episode of the Next Guy Up podcast. Today is our NFL draft preview. Sorry for the sound effects there. Hey, you might not have known this before. We have two draft experts here in-house on the pod today. That would be our very own Mason and Tins. I will admit, I know shockingly little about the NFL draft. So if I say anything, it's probably biased and doesn't mean anything. So keep that in mind as you listen. Tins and Mason have done their research though, and they're prepped and ready for an action-packed full episode of draft preview, including some mock drafting here. Put this out a day early so you get your hands on it before the draft comes. You can see what to expect from your favorite team. So, boys, are we ready for this? You guys in the draft spirit?
This is where we thrive. Me and Tinsley, we have literally sat on like Saturdays and watched when no one else is watching the draft on the third day. Okay. So super pumped, super excited. I've been doing a lot of research, been looking at different mock drafts, but we also have some betting stuff for next week's episode. So if you are a bettor, I'm actually going to throw one out today to entice you to continue to listen. Halfway through the pod, I'm going to throw one out. I'm super excited to already be placing some bets. So I'm ready. How about you, Tins?
Yeah, no, like Mason said, I don't think you'll find two guys that love watching the draft more than us. One of my favorite memories is sitting in my house, actually my first apartment with Mason on a Saturday watching like round 6 and the Blue Man group. You know, that late in the rounds, they start doing funny little bits and sideshows, and the Blue Man group came on and the Jaguars were drafting, and I wanted to hear the analysis about the 6th round pick we just drafted, not the Blue Man group doing some funny little stunt. So I was like yelling at my TV and I was like, I might have a problem. But
that was the same year that Derrick Henry got drafted by the Titans. I remember it specifically. Yeah. R.I.P.
So, okay, I have a real question before we get started for you two. Do you think that, no offense to either program, do you think that fans of teams that have not been very good in the past care more about the draft? Like you've grown to be really invested in the draft because you're used to it, like looking forward to it because your team sucks in the season and you're like, guys, the draft is coming. We're gonna get that guy who's gonna come in. You think that makes sense?
Yeah, I've always kind of said that if you're a team or if you're a fan of a team that's bad, you kind of like the season is the worst part of the season for you. You look forward to the offseason, getting all the free agents, your team overspends on them. You look forward, you read mock drafts starting like all the way back in September when you're like, oh, this could, if we really suck like I think we're going to, we could end up with X player and they could really be the difference maker for us. And then it's just rinse and repeat until you somehow become the Chiefs, because that's, they were terrible for a long time, and that's the goal. You just kind of want to end up like Chiefs. Them somehow. They're the end goal, I guess, because I don't think their fans they could care less about the draft anymore.
There was especially if your team. Sorry, Zach, go ahead. I was just gonna say, especially if your team has like 2 picks, because you're sitting around, or if you have one in the beginning and you're like, all right, made the pick. Our team already picked. Maybe sometimes you turn the draft off, but if you got one in the back half, you're in it for the whole until like 10:30, 11 o'clock, because you're like, oh, I'm waiting until the very end. So it's pretty fun, especially if they do like a good combo that you like. You're like, I know these players.
Yeah, and it's really
times where you don't know who they just drafted. You're like, who's this guy? That happens quite a bit.
It's really fun when your team really sucks and you're picking really high, and then you can't wait till the next day after the first round, and it's like the grades, the 2 early grades, they'll send them out. And it's like everyone that picks in the top 10 essentially gets an A, and you're just reading like, oh man, Mel Kiper really thinks he's really going to make a difference for us. Like I remember Leonard Fournette getting drafted in the Jags, and that, all the draft guys were just raving about it. And it's like, I look back at that draft class, we could have had Christian McCaffrey or Patrick Mahomes, or there's a lot of dudes in that draft, but it's just fun. I mean, it's fun. But me and Mason, we love doing mock drafts. We've been doing them for a long time. not publicly before we even started the pod. It's just been something we do for fun. We always, every year, will make one right before the draft and see how many we get right. So we just thought that'd be fun to do on today's episode. So we are going to do, for all the draft nerds out there today, we are going to do a 32-man mock draft. And then, like Mason said, next week we'll drop an episode early before the first round of the NFL draft to have. We've got some bets. Me and him have both been working up some. The sports books have been releasing lines little by little. So they've kind of cracked down the last couple of years. The last year before and the year before that, it was pretty easy to bet on the draft, and it's been pretty profitable. They've kind of cracked down and made it a little bit harder. So, but we're still going to find some value for everybody.
I already got one at plus money, so plus 200.
Well,
plus 200.
I need to make sure I have DraftKings ready because whenever you give that out, I'm just taking it with you. But I think, without further ado, Zach, you're going to be the commissioner, so I guess we got to boo you. But let's get this thing started with the Bears.
All right. So let me just shout out really fast. My favorite draft of all time was 2006. I was 11 years old. We drafted one Vince Young, 3rd overall. Electric Factory. Vince Young. 2nd overall pick that year, Lynn Whale White. Electric. My guy Lynn Whale. No love.
Yep.
I was a freak.
Yeah. He was, and then it was like, 2 years later, they got Chris Johnson. They had Thunder and Lightning.
Those were the days.
Chris Johnson was drafted a couple of years later. Thunder and Lightning was, that was a fun time to be a Tennessee Titans fan.
Wendell White was something.
I loved watching them. Okay, here we go. So number 1 overall pick. I don't know if we're gonna have any surprises here. Tins. We're both drafting separately. Did we talk about this yet? The kind of delay.
Yeah, me and Mason both. So I don't. Open. Yeah. Trades were available. I don't know what Mason's done on his mock. He doesn't know what I did on mine. So it'll be a surprise. We'll have some good conversations.
Love it.
I don't think we're going to have much to go on here. It's pretty much well known. Caleb Williams is the pick here. He's been talked about as the number 1 guy for a couple of years now. They traded Justin Fields. They've loaded up at all the skill positions. So Caleb Williams is a Bear.
Some locker room issues potentially.
Ooh.
Apparently, everybody loves it. Everybody loves playing with Caleb Williams all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Reckless speculation, Zach, is one of my favorite Zachs. Where he just recklessly
saying out there. I've heard people say locker room problem.
Who have you heard say that? Anybody?
I've heard people. When people start demanding where they're going to go and stuff like that, I automatically when that's being put out there that like, oh, he really doesn't want to go here. It starts making me a little skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams guy, but that's for another pod.
Okay, another pod. Mason, number 1
I got Caleb Williams. It's a no-brainer. I've said it before in the podcast. I think they should have stayed with Fields. We'll see what happens and continue just to use that draft capital to build around him. However, they decided not to do that. I think that there's one quarterback better than Caleb Williams. We'll
spoiler alert.
See. Spoiler alert. So that is my pick for the number 1 pick.
All right. Okay, that was pretty chalk so far. Tins.
Yep. All right.
Number
2, I'm going with J.D. Daniels, quarterback LSU, Heisman winner.
I'm not happy.
There's 2 guys that could have gone this slot. I think that the Commanders are going to go with J.D. Daniels just by what they did this offseason by trading away Sam Howell, who's more of a prototypical pocket quarterback. If they were wanting to stick with that style of offense, I think they would have went with Drake May, who's also was teammates with Sam Howell. But considering they traded Sam away and then signed Marcus Mariota, who is more of a spread offense, more of a running quarterback, I think that tipped their hand a little bit that they're going to draft Jaden Daniels to be the starter and have the backup play the same kind of style. So if something happens, they don't have to change the whole offense.
Okay.
Yeah. I was making that face because I also I hope we don't have a lot of these repeats, to be honest, but I have Jaden Daniels as well, Heisman Trophy winner, had the most broken tackles out of any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft. So out of the pocket can be dangerous, breaks a lot of tackles. So I think it's a good fit for them. So that is my number 2 pick, Jaden Daniels.
Okay, I have another question for you two. Now that we're getting into some quarterback talk, do you think that teams this year took anything from last year's draft class where CJ Stroud kind of really thrived and then Bryce Young struggled? Like, do you think there's anything to take from that, or do you think it's just different players? Totally.
I think it's systems. If you look at what the Panthers had to offer, Bryce Young, a middle of the road at best offensive line, a retread at head coach who's not even in the league and is a position coach now. His top target was Adam Thielen. And then if you look at the Texans have a solid offensive line. They had good young playmakers and a very creative offensive coordinator in Bobby Slovic, who comes from that Sean McVay tree. And he had a ton of head coaching interviews this year. I don't think he'll be an offensive coordinator for much longer because he will end up getting a job. So I think I think if you had swapped him, I don't think the result would have been the exact same, but I think CJ Stroud would have struggled just as much as Bryce with that Panthers situation. I really do think that.
Interesting. Okay. All right. You want to move on? Number
Sorry,
3?
this hat is too big on my head. I had to switch it. All right, third overall. I got my first trade.
New England Patriots. Okay.
Yeah, first trade. I think the Patriots were pretty dead set on Jaden Daniels. The Patriots, I think, know they are in a full rebuild right now. So I think they're going to take this opportunity to trade down, get some more assets. And there's a team, and this team's getting linked to J.J. McCarthy a lot, and I don't know why. The Minnesota Vikings are going to trade 11 and 23 plus some future assets to trade with the Patriots to get up to number 3 to take the best quarterback in this draft class, Drake May.
Wow.
I love Drake. I love Drake May. He is like a mix between like a Josh Allen and Justin Herbert type prospect. He's young. I don't know. I like him. I think he has the highest ceiling of these guys, and he's gonna get put into a good system with good playmakers and be able to learn under a coach who came from the McVay tree in O'Connell. So I love the Vikings mortgaging their future, but doing it to go get their guy at quarterback instead of sitting around kind of hoping someone falls in their lap.
I don't know how this is happening, but I literally had the exact same scenario.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, Drake May is favored at -130 to go third overall. I think that the JJ McCarthy thing is a smokescreen. First smokescreen brought up of the podcast so far. We got several of them.
I do want to throw out that at this time last year, Will Levis was like -1800 as a top 5 pick to go as one of the top 5 quarterbacks, and he went in the second round.
Yeah.
I don't think JJ is going to fall that far, but I do think this is a similar situation where teams and agents are pumping up JJ to kind of, like you said, smoke screen, get some stuff moving around, and maybe a team like the Vikings get the quarterback they want to fall to them or fall into a situation that they can go get their guy.
I think it's so obvious with the Vikings to have those 2 first-round picks that they're going to trade up. And I think I have in my notes that I feel like the Patriots have always been that franchise to not they trade back. They build, assets, draft assets when it comes to this type of thing. I feel like they never trade up and reach. They always trade back. So I feel like that's a perfect match there. So
I think they know that they're,
go ahead.
But I think the Patriots just know they're not even a quarterback away from being somewhat competitive. I think they know this is a complete rebuild. Get the future assets, get 2 first-round picks this year in a very good class, and I think they're perfectly fine with rolling into the season with a Bailey Zappi or Jacoby Brissett and kind of just saying, hey, we'll probably be picking near the top again next year, and there's probably another quarterback we could get.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I thought you were going with JJ McCarthy, and well, I'll say my JJ McCarthy talk. I do think it's interesting, and this is just from my college football kind of viewpoint, that Drake May and JJ McCarthy are kind of coming from opposite situations. Drake May coming from a much smaller program where he was kind of the face and kind of was the guy pushing everything along. JJ McCarthy was kind of the guy who just had to not make mistakes and just kind of play it very safe, do very little honestly to a team that was going to win despite that. So I think it's a pretty interesting just how different those two were coming into the NFL. Like they're different programs they came out of. So
Yeah.
Pretty interesting juxtaposition. All right. Looking at number 4 now.
All right. So
this is
the Cardinals.
The Cardinals.
This was pretty chalk for me. This is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., best receiver, said to be the best receiver in this draft class. I have a different opinion on that. But Marvin Harrison Jr., get Kyler, a top-tier young guy. He's not really had a number 1 receiver since DeAndre Hopkins left. And so, yeah, give him a weapon on the outside, and Marvin Harrison.
I like it.
Man, tough break.
Quarterback.
Marquise Brown, I got the same thing. Marquise Brown leaving the Cardinals for the Chiefs. I think they're in desperate need of a wide receiver. Marvin Harrison is at minus 500 at DraftKings to be the first non-quarterback drafted. So that's who I'm going with.
There you go. Okay. Moving on, number 5 to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah. So this is another potential trade out spot if things don't go the way I think they will at 3. I think the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh wants to move down. I think they're going to go offensive lineman here. Harbaugh hates receivers. He's never even recruited them, really. He cut Mike Williams and traded away Keenan Allen. Like, I just don't think he cares about receivers. So I think they're going to go offensive lineman here. They have a good left tackle in Slater, but they could use some work on the right side. So I'm going to butcher his name, but I'm going to go Penn State offensive lineman. Fushanu is his last name. He was the top-rated offensive lineman. If he were to come out in last year's draft, he decided to come back to school. He's kind of dropped down a little bit, but I still think the potential is there for him to be the first offensive lineman drafted.
You pronounced it better than I did.
I can
believe that. That's a good pick, by the way. I'm actually gonna go. I was thinking the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers traded back. He's talked about it. Jim Harbaugh has talked about it. However, for a team that traded Keenan Allen away and losing Mike Williams to the Jets, I feel like they could take Malik Neighbors here. I understand where you're coming from, but that's where I'm going with this. Some people are saying he's the best wide receiver available, so I could see them draft him here. So I'm going with Malik Neighbors to the Chargers.
Malik Neighbors,
interesting.
Wouldn't surprise me there either, honestly.
And then they have him and Quentin Johnson side by side.
Nah, Quentin Johnson sucks.
Yeah.
What a bust that dude is.
You hear that? That means that you should have a breakout season because you're on one of my dynasty leads, Quentin Johnson. So
you should try to trade him for like a 5th round pick.
I can't get nothing out of him. All right, let's move along here. We got picks upon picks.
Number 6.
All right, number 6.
New York Giants.
Boy, I can't wait to say this pick. Let me make sure I'm looking at Zach really good. The New York Giants have an issue. They don't have a quarterback after this season because Daniel Jones' contract, they can get out of it for no cap hit. He's going to miss a good chunk of the beginning of the year because of the torn ACL. And all rumors point to the Giants organization. This GM did not draft Daniel Jones. This head coach did not ever say Daniel Jones was his guy. Like he inherited him.
Let's make the same mistake.
So let's make the same mistake and get Daniel Jones 2.0. I'm going J.J. McCarthy, 6th overall to the Giants.
That guy.
A stupid franchise reaches for the same quarterback twice.
That is well written. Before Zach gives his take, I want to go ahead and tell mine because it's hilarious. I have him going the 6th pick as well, but not to the Giants. I think the Giants are going to trade to the Broncos. Think of So I'm not just
Ooh.
going fit here.
Hmm.
I'm going front office. What is a joke of a front office that's not been able to get this quarterback situation correct since Peyton Manning left? Who's made the mistake with Russell Wilson, Brock Osweiler, anybody that you can think of? They have been a joke of a franchise when it comes to front office. There's other teams, but I just feel like they would be the team to trade up to do this. When I looked at making this mock draft, I just don't look at the overall talent and fit. I look at the front office. So they constantly make mistakes, especially with that quarterback position, and I think history repeats itself.
My only, and I do think he is a target of theirs. My only thing is, I don't know that they have the ammo to go and get him.
Yeah,
They
I think
don't.
they would do a first round next year.
I think that
Do they have
they
one?
have no draft picks in
Oh,
this year
well,
or next year. They gave up a lot for Russell,
shoo.
and a couple other moves. They
Yeah.
might have their first, but I think you have to have a couple seconds in there too to be able
Yeah.
to get from 6 from wherever they're at. I think they're from at 12 to 6, but it would make sense. I mean, they're definitely a team that's quarterback hungry.
All right, Zach, McCarthy talk.
Look,
JJ McCarthy.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you as well. You don't think there's any chance that Harbaugh reaches for McCarthy?
Now, when you have
I've
Justin
heard those
Herbert,
rumors around. I've heard that some of that.
that the Chargers physically couldn't trade Justin Herbert with the dead cap that they would have to eat. It would just be like a franchise crippling move.
Could be. Be
But
funny.
Jim Harbaugh's crazy enough. Who knows? But
I've
that
heard
would
some
be
stories
that would
coming from the
shake
locker
up
room with the Chargers so far with Harbaugh. It's pretty funny.
the
Harbaugh seems like a psychopath.
if he traded Justin Herbert, that would be like legitimately a top 5 craziest thing that's ever happened in the NFL. And I'm not even a big Herbert
Good
guy,
for
but
content.
he's 25, like he's 25 or 26 years old. He's one of the top paid quarterbacks. The Chargers would have to be paying his dead cap number for like 3 more years. You would be setting yourself back badly. But who knows? Harbaugh ball, baby. Give me JJ.
I would
I just
love for Harbaugh to go with a different team that needed a quarterback and then him
Yeah.
draft him. But I don't see it happening here.
Had he took the Bears job, JJ could legit have gone number 1. Like, that's real. That's
would've been
real.
awesome.
That would have been the best thing
My
ever.
gosh. I think it's very interesting to see JJ McCarthy's draft stock going up the way it is because I don't know. It feels indicative of some of these quarterbacks who are at these higher tier programs and don't really perform exceptionally, but they just get linked with. It's almost like name recognition where they're seen on TV so much and they're playing for national championships or whatever, so much that they get linked to bigger, like to people think of them as a better player just because they're part of these teams. It's kind of that championship mindset. I don't know. We had the same conversation with like Caitlin Clark recently about.
Oh, all right. And we'll keep this going here.
No, yeah,
Looks like
we're
we may have
good.
lost Zach.
It's all right.
Oh, there he is. He's back,
Sorry, I
baby.
was ranting.
You're
Should be
good.
fine. Long story short, if I cut out, I was talking about Caitlin Clark and the championship or bust mentality and how people think he's a winner because he won a national championship, despite truly doing very little to contribute to. If you plug a lot of different quarterbacks in that spot, they would still win a national championship. Maybe have be a more complete team. So just being a part of a winning team does not make you a good NFL quarterback. So I just think that's such an interesting thing to look at. And I'm not going to say I'm smarter than like NFL people and NFL executives, but it always seems like this happens where if you're part of a good team, people consider you a good player, even if you're not.
I heard it today.
That's my take.
If you're at quarterback, especially if you're going to draft someone top 10 or especially top 5, you want to win because of that player.
Right.
That player is the reason you win.
Right.
JJ McCarthy is a player that you can win with, but he's never going to be the reason you won that game or you have a playoff run. He can be a good game manager. in a perfect system, he could probably be a halfway decent NFL quarterback. But he's never going to take over a game like in those moments, like when Patrick Mahomes says, "Hey, we're going to go win the Super Bowl," and
And
he
there's a lot of
does that.
quarterbacks like that in this draft, which is kind of the interesting. Like
Yes.
Jane Daniels put LSU literally on his back for the entire year. Caleb Williams the same. Michael Penix Jr. the same. Drake May the same. I mean, these teams were built around their quarterback system play.
Yeah.
So different than, in my opinion, what JJ McCarthy's bringing to the table. So
JJ or Bo Nix, I think they're kind of in the same boat.
Very true.
Kind of very similar players.
I agree. And why JJ McCarthy is getting so much hype compared to Bo Nix is weird to me.
I don't get it.
JJ McCarthy is minus 1,100 to be drafted in the top 10.
Can you bet the under on that?
Can you bet the not?
You cannot.
I bet you can find his. I'll find.
I could see the Will Levis thing happening where he like falls to the end of the first or out of the first.
If you could bet the opposite, if you could bet the other side of that.
I bet there's draft position.
Some sports book somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep this going because we got Zach and my team, the Titans, up next.
Okay, Tennessee Titans, 10.
So I'll be quick here. I think you guys are gonna go Joe Alt, left tackle from Notre Dame. He is. I went the other offensive lineman for the Chargers because he's more flexible. He could play guard. He could play right tackle. The Titans need a left tackle badly. Joe Alt is purely a left tackle. He's 6'8", huge long arms, very athletic. He is a prototypical left tackle.
It makes complete sense here. Almost every mock draft I've seen has this. There's connection there. Minus 350 for the Titans to draft offensive lineman. They need a left tackle bad. He should fall right in that spot there. So short, sweet, and to the point, Joe Alt as well.
And whatever offensive lineman you get, it's going to work out good because you've got the best offensive line coach in NFL history in Bill Callahan. So that's legitimately I will look for the Titans. I mean, the Titans could trade down and get some extra picks if they wanted because I feel like with him as their offensive line coach, they could take one of the other guys. It's a very good offensive lineman class.
All right. I love it. Let's do it. Okay. Next, we are looking at the Atlanta Falcons, number 8.
The trade is in.
Ooh.
And I have the Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars making a trade here. Now, I am not the only person on earth yelling about this. There's been a lot of smoke that the Jags are trying to trade into the top 10 if these Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors fall. And in my mock, they both have fallen past where they need to be. You got to try and get in front of the Bears because I think the Bears are going to take one of them if they were ones left. So I made a trade, got swapped from 17 to 8. And with that pick, I have the Jaguars taking Rome Odunze, who I believe is the best wide receiver in this draft.
Wow.
I love this kid. I've been saying it all fall. Like I wanted him in teal.
Any bias there, or is this just strictly
no? He's projected top 3 out of these receivers. Some teams like him better than others. So I don't know. He's just the guy I've gravitated to. Spoiler alert for all of our dynasty drafts, whether he ends up on the Jags or not, I'm taking Rome Odunze pretty high.
Wow. He's minus 1,600 to go in the top 10. So you're at what? Where are we at? 8? So there you go. The bet would cash.
Okay, Mason.
Yeah.
Atlanta Falcons.
I have Dallas Turner, edge rusher out of Alabama. DraftKings has minus 210 for 210 for them to draft a defensive lineman or edge rusher. That is their biggest need. Gonna go with Dallas Turner.
How can you bet this stuff? I don't even. Okay, that is wild. They have all these bets available. All right,
everything. Go look, Zach.
Moving on.
It's wild.
The Bears' second pick of the draft, 10s, number 9.
Yep. So, like I said, I felt like they wanted one of these top 3 receivers. In my mock, there's only one left. It's Malik Neighbors. So I've got Malik Neighbors joining DJ Moore and Keenan Allen with Caleb Williams to make a very strong offense.
Very strong. That's just crazy to me. I've seen so many connections. I'm not against it. I'm just saying Is there no other positions that like they need a third wide? Like DJ Moore has still shown that he's great. Keenan Allen, yes, probably back end of his career,
Yeah,
but
Keenan Allen's
still,
like a 1-year rental, I'd say.
yeah,
But I mean, if you've got a second top 10 pick in such a good receiver class, why not pair up Caleb Williams with a guy he could be throwing to for the next decade? Is kind of the thought I've seen. Because they can. I mean, the thing about the Bears is it's not oftentimes you get a 7-win team having the first overall draft pick. They just happened to make a good trade last year with the Panthers. Caleb Williams is going to be set up to be the most successful first overall draft. Like he's going into a team with a solid defense, has plenty of weapons, and a solid offensive line. Like I mean,
yeah.
there he has every chance to turn the franchise around.
Okay, so I'm gonna go for the Bears. I'm gonna go the defensive side of the ball.
Ooh, I've not
I think
seen
that
this mocked that much.
yeah, I'm gonna go Leatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA,
UCLA.
6'4", 259-pound explosive edge rusher.
Yeah,
Um, I'm hoping maybe they go away from wide receiver and they go to defensive side of the like they got offensive weapons in the free
yeah,
agency, so maybe they go edge rusher here. So back to back edge rushers for me. But I saw a lot of this kid's tape, just some highlights and stuff, but
yeah.
this guy is a beast. So I could see him going in the top 10, but that's what I'm going with.
For sure. He almost came out last year in the draft. He was going to be a top 10 pick. He another guy who went back to college. He hurt his neck, and it's kind of dinged
Injury,
him a
yeah.
little bit. But he's been cleared. Freak athlete. I've seen where scouts have said that he could play tight end in the NFL if he wanted to.
We doing our research out here, everybody.
You
I'm throwing
are
out names that I
truly-
can't even pronounce. We're ready to
Look at this
go.
guy.
He is an athletic freak. Pair him up with Montez Sweat, and you've really got a good pair of bookends rushing the passer. So I like that pick too. I've not
Thank
seen
you.
that mocked, so
Love the pick.
you could really like snipe that if you're right, because I've not seen anyone else. I've seen offensive linemen or wide receivers for them.
Yeah.
All right, the
Okay,
Jets.
number 10. Let's round up the top 10 here. The New York Jets. Interesting.
Every mock you're going to see is going to say offensive lineman, because
Protect.
their offensive line was terrible last year.
Mhm.
But here's the deal.
That didn't go wrong at all, at least. They got bailed out. Nothing bad happened because of that.
Right. They went and signed a couple old dudes to play tackles. This is a team, this is a general manager and a coaching staff that knows this is it. If they don't make a run this year, they're all fired. So I don't think they care about the future of the team. We're going to draft the left tackle who's going to be the starter for the next 10 years. No, they don't care. It's let's get some weapons and let's go chase the Super Bowl or else we're fired.
It's like Purdue and Zach Edey.
Exactly. They went to the transfer portal and got like 3-point shooters, and look what happened to them. Ran into that UConn buzzsaw, baby. Anyway, I went Brock Bowers here to give Aaron Rodgers a weapon. That's the route I went.
Jets fans are always wanting something flashy. Give me more. They want Aaron Rodgers. They got Aaron Rodgers. They always want something. So I feel like the front office is just going to give them. This is an automatic. Yeah, Brock Bowers, short, sweet, to the point. They don't really have like good tight end here. Now they got Mike Williams out there. So they could have somebody on the other side. What's that guy's name? Yeah, go ahead.
No. So are you talking about his receivers?
Yeah.
He's got Garrett Wilson and.
No, I meant they don't have a good tight end. They could add a tight end. So now they got Wilson, Mike Williams, and Brock Bowers possibly. So I had that as well. We're I like how we have some diversity, and we're still also.
You don't have Roma Dunze going top 10?
Wow.
I do not.
Amazing.
Shocking.
Right? Terrible.
Yeah,
I'll just remember that.
You guys think Brock Bowers is going to be like a top 3 tight end fantasy pick this year?
No, he's not going to be good. He's not big.
What a take.
So I saw a take where someone said I was standing next to him at a spring game, and I asked the coach, I was like, "Where's Brock Bowers? I was here to see him." He's like, "You're standing next to him." And then I saw a picture of him standing with Gronkowski. He looks like just like a tiny dude. Like he's an athletic freak, sure, but he's 6'3", 240. He's gonna get jammed on the line. Like it's not gonna. He's a big receiver, is what he is. I just don't think it's gonna work.
I don't know. I believe in the Brock Bowers hype. I'll be honest with you.
I don't. Pretty down on Brock
All right.
Bowers.
Wow.
So I want to jump the gun before Zach says anything. Since we both made this trade, it's not the Vikings that have 11. It is the Patriots that have
Good call.
11 for both
Thank
of
you.
us.
Oh,
Yep.
no.
You're welcome. So
Okay,
Patriots go ahead,
Tens.
Tens.
So with my pick for the Patriots, like I said, they're trying to rebuild this whole thing. I have Dallas Turner here, which he's my first defensive player drafted. It's just a few more picks after Mason. Elite pass rusher, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Going to fit well on that Patriots defensive line. Gerard Mayo is ecstatic to get him.
So the Patriots, you brought up the quarterback situation earlier. They always give me the wait till day 2 or 3 vibe to maybe do something like that with a quarterback. I could see them going getting an offensive lineman here and getting a quarterback in late rounds to learn behind Jacoby Brissett if they decide to do that, or wait till next year. Give me Alu Fashanu, which you drafted already out of Penn State. They need a left tackle. He's a left tackle with length and athleticism.
Yeah, he's a plug-and-play guy. He's going to start day 1. That's a good pick. Patriots do need a left tackle for sure.
Yeah.
10.
All right.
Okay, so next we are looking at the number 12 overall pick. This is the Denver Broncos.
Broncos could do a lot of things here. Like I said, they don't have a lot of draft capital. I just don't think they can justify going quarterback right here. Maybe I'm crazy because they surely can't go into the season with Jared Stidham as their starter. But
yeah,
I went Jared Verse, defensive end from Florida State. He's too good of a player for them to let get by him while they're in such a rebuild. I just couldn't let him slip past him.
That's a good pick. I wish
this
that
is your
he would
Giants
go
pick, right?
Yeah, this is my Giants pick. I really like that player though, by the way. But so my Giants pick, I know Tinsley wants to see the Jags draft him. He already had the trade up for him. I feel like the Giants might possibly beat him to the punch. The Giants, absolutely no one as their wide receiver, minus 225 to draft a wide receiver with their first pick. Giants select Rome Odunze out of Washington.
Don't waste you're just wasting his career sending him there.
I know.
How dare you?
It just makes they literally have no look at. You're like, who in the world is he going to pass to? Like they have nobody. So and that's the odds-on favorite for them to draft a wide receiver. If they trade back, get some more assets with the Broncos, and then get that might be kind of a win for them. I know you don't want to see that, but that's who I'm going with.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. All right, Zach.
Number 13, Las Vegas Raiders. Tens.
All right, so the Raiders, I went with Terrion Arnold, cornerback from Alabama. They have built this defensive line, Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson, first-round pick last year, and they spent a bag to get Christian Wilkins from the Dolphins, creating one of the better defensive lines in the NFL. So now you got to get some corners who can get some picks when those quarterbacks are getting rushed. So I went Terrion Arnold.
That's a good pick there. I have him later in a couple picks later. I just don't see Aiden O'Connell being the starting quarterback. I think it would be fun to see back-to-back Washington players get drafted here. Michael Penix Jr. and the Raiders, they've met several times before. And plus 200 for the Raiders to select a quarterback with their first pick. That is my bet. They have also, again, let me get it pulled up here. They have also already met Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Michael Penix Jr. is some of the quarterbacks that the Raiders have met with. And you're telling me that I can get it at plus 200 for them. They're not going to get Jaden Daniels or Drake May, but J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix at plus 200. So, and Aiden McConnell's their quarterback there. So I'm going Michael Penix Jr. here.
I like it. Michael Penix.
No faith in Gardner Minshew as the starter this year.
Minshew magic, baby.
Minshew magic. To answer your question, no. Let's move along.
It is interesting. Penix is getting dropped in a lot of people's mock drafts. Because I do think.
Did you
Penix,
see him as a top 10, Zach?
I don't know. I don't know what makes him any worse than, for sure, JJ McCarthy, but also even some of the comparable players like Jaden Daniels and that type. I don't know. I see Michael Penix as being more similar to Jaden Daniels than to some of the deeper
I'd
quarterbacks.
say it's probably just he's a little bit older and he's got some injury history where he has had 2 ACL injuries and a shoulder surgery. So that's probably that's like the one thing I see pop up with him. But I mean, he's a good player.
Okay. All right, number 14.
Number
The New
14,
Orleans Saints.
New Orleans Saints. I went with Troy Fontenot, Washington, left tackle. The Saints are in a bad way at left tackle. They've had some busts the last couple of years in drafts. So I went with the left tackle out of Washington.
I also went offensive lineman here, minus 300 for them to draft a offensive lineman, so hugely favored. But I went Tylese Feuga out of Oregon State. Perfect plug and play option for them. A lot of things I've seen is he's like an automatic, like ready to go day one starter.
Day one guy. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. See, look at you. Must have read the same thing I did. I read a couple things.
He can play both tackle spots and both guard spots. So if you're just looking for a guy who's going to fit in if you're putting out your best 5 offensive linemen, he's going to be one of them. So that's a good pick for a team that they need offensive line help just in general. So he can just fill a spot. That's a good pick for them.
All right. Next up, number 15 overall is the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah. I went Kenyon Mitchell here, highly rated corner out of Toledo. The Colts had one of the worst secondaries in the league last year. They've got to do something to address it. I know Colts fans would love a receiver or something fun here, but I think they've got to get some pieces in that secondary. So I went Kenyon Mitchell.
Watched a lot of Titans Colts games, and when you have Will Levis like lighten up your secondary, that means that you need to work on your secondary. So I have cornerback, but a different one. You had them going earlier. I have Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. I just think it'd be a great option for this team if he's still on the board.
All right. Okay, next we have the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks. All right, so I went Byron Murphy out of Texas right here. He is the number 1 rated defensive tackle. The Seahawks have invested a lot of money in Leonard Williams and a couple other pass rushers, but they are looking to kind of beef up that defensive line as far as run stoppers go. So Byron Murphy grades out as the best one to do that. So I went there.
Seahawks lost Damian Lewis to free agency, so I could see them drafting his replacement here. Let's go with the third Husky taken off the board. Troy, how'd you say his name?
Troy Fontenot.
Yep. So, and that's Words with Mason, by the way. You got that as well. That's usually messing around Monday. So I'm going to go with Damian Lewis's replacement for the Seahawks.
All right.
Like it.
Okay.
Right, number 17. So this is my Falcons pick.
Right.
I went with Nate Wiggins, cornerback from Clemson. Tall, he's 6'3", speed. This guy does not get burnt, and when he does get burnt, he has closing speed to close that gap. And I don't know, he made some big plays for Clemson. The Falcons are in pretty big need of a corner, so I went with Nate Wiggins.
I'm curious. So I do have the Jags pick here. They did not trade up like you wanted.
Yep.
I'm curious to see if you like this pick or not, because I've heard there might be a little bit of some stability issues with this. But with the Jags losing Calvin Ridley, I think they also go wide receiver. I don't think they draft up. They go with the best available at this time, possibly a Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Huge yards after the catch talent to help out Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. I've seen a lot of there's like a blood sugar issue and some like stability
That's AD
problems.
Mitchell.
Oh, that is him. Okay. Gotta get my facts straight. Well, I'm
Get your
curious to
facts
see what you
right,
think of
man. No,
I'm curious to
I
see
like
what you think about him.
I like Brian Thomas Jr. If we're gonna stick and pick and not trade up for essentially put my Jaguar hat on, if we trade up for anyone other than Roma Dunze, I'm happy, but I'm not like screaming "Let's go" in my house. If we stick and pick at 17 and take Brian Thomas, I'm very happy.
Okay.
He's a big guy. He ran a very fast 40. He led college football in catches or touchdown catches this year. So I would not be mad about Brian Thomas at all. I think he'd fit in very well and give Trevor a good young target to grow
Yeah.
with.
All right.
Okay. Number 18, Cincinnati Bengals.
All right. I went with Talise Fugaga. That is the lineman from Oregon State. I feel like the Bengals are always in need of offensive linemen. Like I said earlier, he could play both tackle spots or either guard spot. He's a plug and play 10-year guy that you never really hear anything about. He's just going to be consistently, playing well and doing his job. So that I think the Bengals could use a guy like that.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I had him already going off the board. I hate to keep bringing up betting odds, but the books know best. The Bengals' leading position or betting position is offensive line. Makes sense that they want to keep protect one of the highest paid quarterbacks, Joe Burrow. Give me J.C. Latham out of Alabama.
Yep. Alabama. That's a good pick because they did re-sign Orlando Brown Jr. He's a left tackle. J.C. Latham is a right tackle, which they lost their right tackle in Jonah Williams. So makes sense to go get a guy that they can plug in day one as a right tackle.
So we took facts and put more facts on top of it. That's what you get here at the Next Guy Up podcast.
That's right, baby.
Okay. We are looking at the number 19 pick, the Los Angeles Rams.
Fun fact about this pick. This is the first round pick the Rams have had since Sean McVay has taken over as head coach.
Wow.
They have historically traded these picks for players and built a super team. Worked out for them. They got a Super Bowl run. So with the first round pick in Sean McVay's time with the Rams, everyone wants to go offensive line. Maybe you go defensive line to replace Aaron Donald. No. Sean McVay is about one thing and one thing only, putting points on the board. I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. here to add to an already stacked wide receiver room with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Give Matthew Stafford another top-tier weapon, and let's try and get one more Super Bowl out of him while they still got about maybe 2 more years with Stafford. I think they just go chase it.
Holy cow. That'd be
Can
wild.
you imagine that three-set wide receiver with Tyler Higbee lining up at tight end with Kerryon Williams at running? I mean, that's a legit offense.
That's crazy. No, with the Rams, I actually went. It was a no-brainer for me. The Rams need an edge rusher to replace Aaron Donald after retirement. Could see that. I am shocked that in my mock draft, Jared Verse, you talked about him already, out of Florida State, 6'4", 260 pounds, had 23 solo tackles, 9 sacks, and a forced fumble last season. Performed really well at the combine. You can look at some grades of like overall performance. And one of the things I saw was like a 99 out of 100 was like all his skill position, like the skill drills and all that stuff. So give me Jared Verse for the Rams.
I mean, if Jared Verse is sitting there at 19,
what a steal.
They're running to the podium with that card.
Yeah.
I mean, that's especially you team him up with Braylon Edwards. And that's a very good 1-2 punch at defensive ends.
The only reason that he fell is I kept looking at teams that just constantly need offensive line help, and there's so many good offensive lines. So I feel like those could just keep going. I saw a guy on here that was like literally like 6'7" and over 300 pounds, and I looked at some of his stuff and I was like, this guy is literally like making these other guys look like high school players. So there's just so many offensive lineman options. So that would be the only reason, not because he's not good, but
Right.
just what other people's like what they need. So
No, this is being talked about is if you need an offensive lineman, this is the draft to do it.
yeah.
You're going to see a lot of them go in the first round. I know we're not giving out draft props this week; it's for next week. But if you can find anything like 8.5, take it because I think there's at least 9 to 10 that could go in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
All right.
number 20, right?
Number 20,
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh
The
Steelers.
Pittsburgh Steelers have made some big moves this offseason, getting Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. We're a little bit more. They spent a little bit more in free agency than they normally do. But they cut their starting center and have not addressed it. So I went with Graham Barton, offensive lineman from Duke. He's a combo guy. He projects more to be a center in the NFL. He played left guard and left tackle the last 2 years, but he was a center his freshman year at Duke. So just a versatile guy, kind of fits that Steelers mentality of they like to just put their best 5 offensive linemen out there. They don't really care about position titles. It's just who's best at what. So I feel like he'll be a day one starter for them.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. I have him just a little bit later, but I did see how he like had experience with 3 different offensive line positions. I'm going minus 330 for them to draft offensive line, so I'm also going offensive lineman here. I think they need that. Amarius Mims out of Georgia is the
Ooh.
play here.
Mims, I like Mims. Like I'm going a little bit later. He's got all the potential. I saw where he in his college career only had like 800 something snaps. He had less snaps in his time at Georgia than Joe Alt had all season this year. So just talking about a really young guy that could turn out to be a that's the fun part when you get a little bit later in the draft when teams aren't drafting for need. They're just kind of drafting to develop a guy, and he could develop into a really good player for them.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Let's move on. We have number 21, the Miami Dolphins.
All right. So I kind of am going against what I just said. This is a team that has a lot of needs, and I think they're going to ignore all of them because they like to. It's kind of like what I just said about the Rams. The Dolphins are going to go Xavier Worthy, who is nothing but speed. He is a speed guy. He's going to fit what Mike McDaniels likes to do with a lot of reverses and bubble screens and a lot of motion in the backfield from your receivers. So add Xavier Worthy to Ty or
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, that's a lot going on.
Broke the record for 40 time.
Yep.
I have him later, but that would be wild if they went that direction. I have Byron Murphy the second out of Texas, 6 feet tall, 308 pounds, 29 total tackles, 5 sacks last season at Texas.
Yeah, he's a freak.
Big fella.
No.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Big guy.
Okay. Moving on. Number 22, Philadelphia Eagles.
All right. Eagles had a lot of guys retire this year. They didn't really make any splashes in free agency.
Rip to my guy, Jason Kelce. Right, Tins?
Not my guy. Not my guy. Never been my guy ever. Exact opposite of my guy. But they do need to replace another guy that also retired. He for some reason gets overshadowed by Jason Kelce's retirement, but Fletcher Cox was also a very big part of that defensive line for years and years. But we're too busy talking about Jason Kelce, but whatever. So I'm going to go defensive tackle Johnny Newton out of Illinois, who is considered the best pass rush defensive tackle. So that I think he fills in for what Fletcher Cox is leaving with the pass rushing skill from the defensive tackle position. And you pair him right next to big dog that they drafted from Georgia the other year. I can't remember his name now, but Jordan Davis. Giving you a pretty good tandem there at defensive tackle. So I went Johnny Newton.
No, that's a good pick. I actually like that a lot. I'm gonna go, which I've seen a lot of hype around this guy. I think you had him already going. Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. Did you have him
Ooh,
going already?
yeah, he's
Uh,
he's
he fell in my drafts. A lot of hype around this cornerback. I could see them going there if he
it's a plus
falls.
money pick right there.
Plus money. Let's go.
His draft position on DraftKings is his over under is 15.5.
I have him at
great for that guy.
22. Holy.
Take
I
that under,
mean,
baby, or over, baby.
I
It's
literally
plus
had
money.
like 3 or 4 offensive linemen going in a row, so that's where some of these fell. But
And that's going to happen on draft night too. I mean,
yeah.
honestly, like we're not just like kind of talking out of our butts here. This is what everyone's talking about. It's going to happen. So we'll have bets for it next week.
All right.
Okay. Great work. We already threw a couple of different trades and things. We now have Minnesota Vikings at 23.
Yep. So this is the Patriots for both of us, right? This is the trade.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I went with receiver for the Patriots. We got someone in Dallas Turner at 11. Let's get a weapon for whoever it is at quarterback. And I went with Mitchell from Texas, best receiver available probably at this time. He's got some off the field stuff and things like that. But if anyone could coach that out of him, it's probably the Patriot way of Gerard Mayo and just that organization.
Yeah, this is the wide receiver I meant to say earlier. We have the same pick. That's wild. Had the trade and but big red zone threat, 11 touchdowns last season. We talked about the offseason stuff, so maybe everything's fine with that. Some durability issues, but that's being talked about all of a sudden. It could be a smoke screen. Who knows? But yeah, got Mitchell out of Texas.
That's crazy. We both have the trade, and
that is locked in. Going to have to happen now. So
yeah, if that happens, come knock on our door, ESPN. We've got availability.
Okay,
Hurt Mel Kiper needs to retire because we're the elite mock drafters now, baby.
That's right.
Okay, we got the Cowboys at 24.
Lost Tyron Smith, longtime left tackle. So there's a question mark there. I went J.C. Latham. He can play left or right. I know we talked about him being a right tackle for Mason when he took them for the Raiders. So I went best offensive lineman available here with J.C. Latham.
I'm also going left tackle out of Duke, Graham Barton.
Ooh, so you're gonna have him. You got him sticking at left tackle and not kicking inside.
No, yeah,
I got you.
Okay. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers, 25.
All right, so it feels like the Packers, this is what they always do. Everyone's like, oh, receiver right here. No, what are they going to do? They're going to draft the best defensive player available, and they always hit. Somehow Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to make it to them, I feel like, and he's my favorite corner in this draft. He's the best press man cover guy to me. I love everything coming out about him. All his tape, his pro day was great. All the teammates have been hyping him up. I would love – the Jags don't go receiver. I hope this is who they go with. But I've got him going 25 to the Packers. He'll be a day one starter for them, and he will make an impact. I think he will be one of the steals of the draft. He's one of – I know we didn't really – and we'll probably do this next week, but I've got a list of, like, my guys. He is one of my guys that I think are going to be great.
Wow.
No, that's a good pick. I like that one a lot. I was looking at it just seems like they're very, and I keep going offensive line, and I apologize, but that's what the teams are needing. Minus 250 according to the books for offensive linemen for the Packers. I'm going to go Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon.
Ooh, the center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big offensive line guy, Mason.
Big. Yep.
All right, next we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 26.
All right. So the Bucs to me have a prototype that they like to draft as far as defensive ends go. They like tall, athletic, freak athletes. So I have them falling pretty far, but I kind of end up the same way with Mason, is where I couldn't justify a spot for him after a few teams. Latalu, I can't say his name. The guy Mason took in the top 10 for
number 10.
Number 10. So that's where I got him falling to the Bucs. and they're ecstatic that it happened.
I think
Did
we
I
should.
pronounce a name better than you did?
You
Probably
sure
not.
did.
Actually,
I got tongue tied there pretty bad.
Okay, we should. I think we should have a competition on this. Whoever gets closest wins, from 10 to 27, wherever this guy ends up getting drafted.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll track that. Wherever he ends up drafted, whoever is closest,
I like it.
wins the round there. Okay, Mason.
Okay, so I lost our spot. We're at the Bucks now.
Bucks. Yep.
They need an edge rusher. I'm gonna go Chop Robinson out of Penn State with the 26th pick.
Yep. That's
Okay.
He fits the mold too.
He does fit the mold.
Love it. All right, moving on. Number 27, we have the Arizona Cardinals.
All right, so we had them taking Marvin Harrison with their first round pick. So got a playmaker on offense, a cornerstone guy there. I think they're going to take a guy right here who's going to be a long-term starter for them. He reminds me of Brandon Graham. If you don't know who that is, he was a defensive end, defensive tackle hybrid for the Eagles for many years. Rich Gannon is the or that's not his name, but whatever his name is, the head coach for the Cardinals, was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles for a long time. So this guy is just someone he's going to love. He's a fringe first round draft pick, but I'm going Darius Robinson, edge rusher, defensive tackle from Missouri.
Yeah, I'm going the same thing that we went wide receiver for the first pick. Now we're going on defensive end. Johnny Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois.
Okay, I like it. All right, next up we have number 28, the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, the Bills. The Bills,
Love
the Bills,
the
the
Bills.
Bills. The Bills have a need at every position on the team.
Quarterback?
Every position on the team.
Oh my gosh.
Just joking. Josh Allen is not someone they need to replace yet. But anyway, no, they had a rough offseason. They have had to clean out a lot of cap room. They've lost a lot of key starters on both sides of the ball. They're super favored to take a wide receiver here. In my mock, all the ones worth taking were gone. Defensive end is still a very important position in the NFL. I got him taking Chop Robinson here.
That's a good pick. I had him going just a little
back
bit
to back
earlier.
Robinson for me.
I know, right? This would be such a Bills move to me. I did have a wide receiver available. The Bills are such a team that would draft a player that had the fastest 40 time in history to make you forget about Stephon Diggs. I really do think that they're going to draft Xavier Worthy out of Texas here. And be like, ooh, look at this new shiny thing. Don't pay attention to us trading Stephon Diggs away for basically nothing. So get you excited about the draft a little bit.
Yeah, don't look at everything else falling apart. We got this wide receiver who broke the 40-yard dash.
Exactly. It made perfect sense to me.
That's a Bills thing for sure.
Okay. We have 4 picks left here. We have at number 29, the Detroit Lions.
Detroit, really kind of hard to pick a hole anywhere like on their team. Like they're a well-built team right now. They did lose starting safety / nickel corner guy, CJ Gardner-Johnson. So I'm going to fill that slot with Cooper DeJean, corner from Iowa. He's being flexed to safety is what most teams think they're going to have to move him to. But he can play this hybrid role of corner, safety, nickel, super athlete. He's getting knocked down in drafts a little bit just because he couldn't compete at the combine because he was recovering from a broken foot. But he was a very good player for Iowa. So I love sticking him in here with the Lions being a day one starter.
For some reason, I feel like the Detroit Lions want to go corner here as well, but a flashier name that I feel like more people probably know about, and that's Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. I know that guy. Everybody kind of knows him because of his name and SEC Alabama guy, so
yeah,
I'm going to go with him there. But I literally have that guy going, the one that you just picked, literally next. So we weren't too far off on Cooper there.
All right. Speaking of next pick, we've got number 30, Baltimore Ravens, 10s.
All right, so I went Marius Mims here, right tackle from Georgia. Ravens have a big need at right tackle. They lost their starter. He longtime starter for them, went to the Jets. The Ravens are they love to do this. They will draft a very young player, develop him. He will be a starter for them for 10 years. That's what they do. That's why they're always picking down here at the end of the first round, because they are one of the better ran franchises in the league. And I could see them turning, like, Amarius Mims to me is like a pot of, like, a bunch of clay, and they're going to turn him into a beautiful flower pot.
Wow, that's deep.
Wow.
Thank
Great
you.
analogy there. Love it. I'm gonna
all
go
right.
Cooper DeJean here for also I don't know why I'm making his name sound like he's French or something.
DeJean.
DeJean. But for the Baltimore Ravens out of Iowa.
Oh yeah, definitely could be a plug and play guy for them. They could use that.
Nice.
Kind of matches their defense too, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, we got our last two picks of the draft here of the first round. Next up, we have the
49ers.
The San Francisco 49ers.
To me, you don't draft a true center in the first round, but the 49ers really just don't care about, like, round value. Like, if they've got a guy, they're going to take their guy. Jackson Powers Johnson, I feel like, is the best center in this draft. They have a need at center. He fits he ran the kind of zone run blocking scheme that they run for the 49ers up in Oregon. So he's going to fit in perfectly with what they want to do.
No, that's good. That's a good pick. I like that there. I could see that happening. I went Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma here, offensive tackle. Words with Mason, you know. So
we're deep in the draft at this point. It's fine.
Is he just going to be a developmental guy, though? I mean, because Guyton's a tackle only, and they've got two tackle, kind of sit behind Williams for a few years. You think
possibly?
I got you.
They seem like the type of team that would maybe do that.
Yeah,
I do like
sure.
that pick though. He just already came off the board for me.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you had him up at the Packers.
Yeah,
gotcha.
All right, and last but not least, end of the first round, we have got the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, I had a hard time with this one because they're the Chiefs. They don't have any needs anywhere really. They could use a new left tackle. I don't think they're going to take one here. I went with Ladd McConkey, wide receiver from Georgia. He's just, I feel like he's going to be Patrick Mahomes' new go-to slot guy, third downs, makes all the annoying catches. It's 3rd and 4, and he hits Ladd McConkey for 6 yards, and it's going to make everyone so angry. So that's who I went with right here.
So who did the Chiefs lose? Big free agent. L'Jarius Sneed, not free agent. It was a trade.
Well, they
right?
traded him, yeah.
Yeah, but big guy that they lost. Makes sense for the Chiefs to go cornerback here. To me, I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Chiefs do a lot of man coverage. I saw that he has a lot of man coverage qualities. Clemson did a lot of man coverage defensively, so it makes sense to me here. Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. To sum up the draft here, everybody. That's a first mock draft. Next guy up, pod.
The first one,
draft.
ladies and gentlemen.
I'm telling you, if you're listening to this, this is not the betting one, and I'm not going to go look at the lines now. But if you trust your guy Mason, which I do, I'm about to go put in these bets. Go find Nate Wiggins, his draft position, slot over under. Take the over. He's got him falling all the way to 32, and then the other player we were talking about earlier as well. That's 2 corners. Quinion Mitchell, I think, was the other one.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 guys.
Do you think that's actually going to happen, though? I don't know.
They're both slotted in the teens, so
yeah.
I'm going to take it. All right. You got it in your mock, so I trust you. But
I don't understand how they can allow betting on this. We can wrap up. I know we're going along, but it doesn't make sense to me how they can allow betting on this kind of stuff where there's so much insider knowledge and people inside programs can leak so much stuff. Like, this is not an on-field performance type situation. This is like you're betting on a decision, like a business decision that's probably already been made for a lot of these teams for the most part. I don't
Yeah,
understand
it's
how
why
you
a
can
lot
bet
of
on
these
this.
lines aren't out. Like, I'll just be on it, and I've searched every day. I have been trying to bet Drake May to end up a Minnesota Viking, and they won't release it. So that tells you all you need to know. Every other quarterback to land on, like, you can bet who's going to draft J.J. McCarthy, and every team pops up. And every team, and Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels, but not Drake May.
Interesting.
Nate Wiggins over under 26.5. So I have it over.
I didn't realize he was that far down now.
Michael Penix Jr. over under 32.5. So basically the first round or not. Yeah. We don't have to do all this. This is next episode. We are running over.
All right, guys. But thanks to the boys here, giving us some insider knowledge. I think that's an incredible deep dive on some of the draft stuff going on. You guys have anything else to say before we wrap it up?
No, we'll special guest. So we'll have a first round recap next weekend, coming out on Saturday after the first round. We're gonna record it during the second round. Special guest, the next guy up, Josh Bowles will be joining us.
Hey,
so that'll be fun. He's a big draft nerd like we are. And then like me and Mason have said, next week we will have a more betting focused draft episode. Because all the lines should be out by next week, hopefully.
We're putting all this out on Twitter, so follow us individually and the Next Guy Up podcast on Twitter. And that's a wrap, baby. Put it in the books.
All right. We will see you next time. See you guys.